friends, welcome back! In old episode of Lords of the Blades we had 10 ninja weapons, and since Master Jakub just came back from Japan, we have for you today part 2. What do you say, Master Jakub?
Yes, there are some so-called ninja weapons, so we will explain it after that piece by piece, and of course we have a lot of cool tests.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. But now, let's get started. Okay, Master Jakub, I will go from the right side, and this one really caught my eye because I hold it before, and I wish you guys would know this is like 2 kilograms, maybe something.
Maybe 1 kilo, but it's very heavy.
Yeah.
It's so-called tenarashi tesen. Tesen is iron fan. This one is impossible to open. It's only imitation of fan, but very dangerous like weapon. For example, for blocking of attacks of samurai swords. There are some tesen which is possible to open, but this one is so-called tenarashi. Very heavy and very good weapons. Because samurai used fan for everyday life, it was good kakushibuki or hidden weapon because it was not obvious to walk everywhere with own fan. For example, in case of tea ceremony, it was forbidden to use real weapons, but for self-defense, tenarashi or tesen was very suitable.
Very interesting.
By the way, when we spoke about tea ceremony from time of famous tea master Sen Norikyu in the second part of 16th century, it was forbidden wear swords for tea ceremony because it was a very difficult period or Sengoku period. So to avoid stress in time of tea ceremony, even samurais were not allowed to have true swords, but they used chagatana or wooden imitation of a sword. It's made from one piece of wood. It's not a blade inside, but it was something like imitation because it was impossible to see samurai without sword because it's ugly. So if true sword was impossible to wear, this chagatana or tea ceremony sword has been used. But for self-defense, you can hit your enemy with this hard piece of wood, so it was somehow possible to use it like weapons.
And there was real Kozuka inside, or kogatana?
Yes.
Or?
Kogatana is this small knife in furniture of Japanese sword. It was of course used like shuriken or throwing knife. We have comparing throwing of Kozuka or kogatana with new kinds of shuriken. So, for example, this is so-called kankyuto. It looks like kogatana, but it's a little bit different. Here is some inscription. Hachiman, it's Japanese god of war, and here is Namu Amida Butsu, hail to Buddha Amida, Buddha of Pure Land. In time of battle, samurai wanted to kill his enemy, cut over his head and bring this head or namakubi after battle. And after showing of this served the head to some commander, samurai received some reward. But time to time was not time to cut your dead enemy head, so for this reason you stabbed kankyuto into his dead body, and it was something like visit card because
like
here were some name inscription of honor, for example. But we tried to use kankyuto as shuriken, and it was very effective. This one is original shuriken of Negishiryu style, very famous style of shuriken jutsu. It's a lot of copies, but it's original piece from this school. It's very interesting shape. Master Jakub, you have first throwing weapon like this when you was young.
Yeah. That was my first shape. This one. Exactly this shape of the bow shuriken. But this is from the Japan original, right?
Yes. Of course, it's a lot of copies, but it's original Negishiryu school piece. Now we are comparing throwing with Negishiryu original shuriken, kankyuto, and kogatana. As you can see, very deep penetration. Maybe most deep is in case of Kozuka. Ueno no kami Fujiwara Kanesada. We also tried so-called tatame bari. Tatame is this mat very typical for interior of Japanese house. But tatami bari is needle for making of tatami. But it was also very strong weapon, of course, for stabbing, etc. But we tried it as shuriken, and it's very, very powerful, insane weapon with very deep penetration. Even if we tried no spin or sugura or half spin throwing method.
I will try house spin with this. Look at these guys. They have even penetration through this target. And Master Jakub, this one really caught my eye. This is like a handle, shuriken with handle or something like that. Can you explain a little bit?
It's so-called morohoshi or karakuri jutte. It's possible to take it from this position and prepare into the form of small jumonjari, or it was perfect left hand weapon, for example, used together with sword. And Enmei Ryu is style of very famous legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi learned this weapon from his father Minamoto Munesai, and it was origin of later Musashi's fighting style, or Nitten Ichiryu, using of both sword, katana and wakizashi together. So it's very good for blocking. And for our idea, we first time in world history tried to throw this karakuri jutte as shuriken, and it was very surprisingly effective weapon. And maybe first in the world history, or maybe first time from Miyamoto Musashi period, we are trying to throw karakuri jutte.
The hole. And Master Jakub told me that in the past that this part was sharp like a razor, so that would pierce flesh and everything. I just want to try a real quick one experiment because it reminded me like a shuriken shape, so I'm wondering if I would be holding like this, if you can stick it with one of these parts. Just let's try real quick. Look at that, it actually worked, guys. Can you see on the other side? So we have stick with this part like I wanted. So with this tool, in the critical situation, you could just grab it, throw it, maybe run away. Great for ninja.
In case of jutte or jitte, you know this kind, it's Edo period from 17th to 19th century, police equipment for arresting of criminals. Here is a hook called Tachimogi no Kagi. It's good for catching of blade of Japanese sword in time of arresting, and good for hitting of enemy, and lot of techniques for example Kansetsu waza. This is two typical examples of jutte or jitte. So this one, jitte, is written by a little different ideograms or kanji. This is written with ideograms of 10 hands, maybe because it's power of 10 hands if you are use it properly. And this one is written in kanji or ideograms as a real hand. But of course it's a lot of another names in another schools of Japanese martial arts. Some like cousin of jutte is hachiwari or kabutowari. This is piece for true fight. This small jutte was mostly something like symbol of yoriki or doshin, old Japan policemen, but it is very effective weapons against, for example, Japanese sword. Very long jutte or hachiwari can be almost 1 meter long. And it's most typical length for a true fight. We have here one more hachiwari. in a very nice fitting in Kamakura body. It's lacquered with red color lacquer. So it's in a fitting like Japanese sword. Most of Hachiwari is from Bakumatsu period in end of Tokugawa period, about half of 19th century.
And was it actually popular? People use it, or more, or just
it was something like jutte. It was in the fact torimono dogu, or criminals arresting white men mostly. But here is some difference. In case of jutte, here is not sharp point, so you can use it, for example, for some atemi, weak points of human body, called kyusho, for example. And Hachiwari have sharp point, so of course we tried, maybe first time in human history, Hachiwari as shuriken or throwing weapons.
It was surprising, really good. Wow. Again, in the worst case scenario, crazy penetration. Master Jakub, can you tell me why you have bell on the mat? What is it?
This bell is in par with this gokosho, this Buddhist symbols. Sound of bell called konkore means impermanence of the sword. And gokosho or sankosho means diamant Buddhism learning. It was something like religion symbol, especially connected with Shingon-ryu or Japanese esoteric Buddhism, same like Tibetan style of esoteric Buddhism. But it was also used like tenouchi for fight, something which make or impact stronger, or tenouchi.
And the bell? You could smash also the bell
no. Every time in esoteric Buddhism, it is part of konkore and gokosho, because this one means impermanence of this world, and this means something like eternity of Buddha's teaching.
Okay.
Very simply said.
And this one, Master Jakub?
This one is Chinese literary called Jui in Chinese and Nyoi in Japanese. It was something like symbol of literati and also later Buddhist monks. But it was not weapon. But Japanese made so-called tetsunyoi or jui made from iron. It's iron piece lacquered in kuronuri lacquer work, and it's very powerful weapons for self-defense because you can easily break bones by hitting with this very not famous but very powerful weapon.
And I also noticed that you have even one firearm here on the tatami mat.
So it's Japanese matlogan. It's so-called bajozutsu. It's for horse, samurai or kibatai. But for example, in Tencho Igaran, in a very famous ninja uprising against Nobunaga Oda in end of 16th century. So defender of Iga and also attacker often used matlocks. So, for example, Buddhist monks from Nekoroji was expert for using of firearms. So firearms was part of samurai and also so-called ninja warfare in the 16th century.
Did they had also like some kind of special ammunition or just like one type?
Typical ammunition like in Europe, made from lead.
Bullets.
Bullets from lead. Only in some very rare occasions it was made from clay. Maybe
interesting.
If original lead was not possible to use because, for example, in case of castle defense, all lead was already used.
Okay. Hard to get.
Yes.
Yeah. What's next, Master Jakub? There's so many cool weapons.
Yes, it looks like chagatana. It's from one piece of wood, but it's so-called yakogatana. Yako was a samurai servant, so they are not allowed to have a real sharp sword. So for self-defense or as a symbol of prestige, Yako used this sword-like button made from one piece of wood.
It's basically similar to this one, but
Yes,
this was more.
this one is very high quality, made some Netsuke cover, I suppose, but this one is for servants, not for samurai
And
or ninjas.
the next pieces, I think you can see often in the samurai movies and stuff like that, right, Master Jakub? It's the pipe.
Yes.
Explain where it's
Tobacco is in Japan from about half of 16th century. Japanese pipe is called kiseru, but this one is so-called kenka kiseru. Kenka means fight, so fittings is very heavy in this case as well. So it was possible to hit your enemy in the fight. It's possible to use as a classical pipe, of course, very strong weapons. It's possible to use it as tenouchi for attacking of big points of body, of course, as well.
blocking the katana, right?
Maybe.
Maybe, but
I
the
suppose
longer
a little
pieces.
bit, little bit dangerous, but if is it not another opinion, better than nothing.
And this one is the similar concept.
Very interesting. It's a bamboo flute called shakuhachi. It's made from madake bamboo, and this is a part of root of bamboo. It's very heavy, and it was one Zen Buddhism sect Fukeshu, and monks of Fukeshu used this for self-defense because it's very very heavy, and it was not allowed in time of takuhatsu or visiting another place have some weapons except a small dagger or tanto. So monks used often shakuhachi for self-defense, and in case of proper using of this flute, it's very powerful weapon.
Very, very beautiful. And maybe we have also, you told me this is the original ninja sword or something like that? Ninja.
Yes.
Explain, maybe?
It's a lot of movie style ninjato, but this one is original piece. In the fact, if ninja hidden own identity used same weapons like commoners or samurais, it means katana or wakizashi, and a lot of ninjato is fakes. But this one is very interesting. Why? It looks like typical katana, but if I'm observing the blade, it's much more shorter. It is some advantages. For example, in the time of drawing of sword, you can be much more faster than if you are using katana. Of course, not everyone in old Japan was allowed to have long sword or katana. It's in all Japanese nishaku amari, or blade with more than 2 feet in length. It was allowed only to samurais. So maybe someone who were not in samurai class wanted to have sword which look like katana, but in fact it was a wakizashi blade. But in some historical ninjutsu school called Togaku-ryu, there are sword like this. It's so-called biken, and it's typical biken with katana fitting and wakizashi blade. And there are some special technique for this kind of sword. What is interesting that in saya or scrapat was possible to insert some Metsubushi or Ace Destroyer. It was something like dust, sand, etc. And in this movement, like in the case of, or like in the case of all previous
shooting for the tube
episode
with the arrows.
Yes. After this movement, this poisoned dust comes to ace of enemy, and it was very good for blinding him. By the way, not only ninja, but also Edo period policemen or Doshin or Okapiki used Metsubushi for arresting of criminals. So, just for the fun, we tried some Hollywood style ninjato throwing method.
Same as Master Jakub, even this time it pierced into the wood target. Actually penetration, something like that.
Of course, it was possible to throw not only tanto or daijure or wakizashi or short sword, but also katana. For example, if my enemy had some gun, I have no choice to kill him for long distance than throw even a long sword. But after some proper training, it's possible and quite easy to kill my enemy by throwing of long sword as well.
Yeah. And since we are talking about longer distances, you told me also that samurai and ninjas had even the bow, right?
Yes, Japanese bow yume is quite famous, but this one is a little bit shorter one. It's so called hankyu. Hankyu means half bow. Since Japanese bow is very long, this one is about half size of usual one. It's made from wadake bamboo, and it was only for shooting for short distance, about 10 meters approximately. So it was good for defending of interior, and even much more small bows existed. For example, kagoyume, etc. It was about this size. But it's a lot of legend about ninjas, so it's often called that a ninja used these short bows as well.
Interesting. Maybe you can also show the arrow that they use.
Yes. Some example. So of course we tried it as well in our tests.
And is there something that we missed, Master Jakub?
Only one of this piece is so-called shikomi katana or shikomizue. Maybe you remember movie Zatoichi. Not only with Kitano Takeshi, but it's a lot of movies about the blind swordsman. And shikomi katana is Ken sword in old Japan. Maybe you remember our episode of European fighting canes and Ken swords. So this one is Japanese one.
Okay.
But it's with very high level blade, made in the start of 16th century by famous swordsmith Gasan from Deba province. Very typical work of Gasan school with Ayasugi Hada and Tsuguwa Hamon Temple Lion. And mostly shikomi katana is not so high level swords. After Haitore, after abolishing of samurai class in the end of 19th century, it was not allowed even for samurai to wear swords in public. It was something like privilege in Edo period, but now it was forbidden, so samurais often use hidden sword or shikomi katana for self-protection.
And was the punishment really bad if the police would caught you with the sword?
So in this period, only policemen and army was allowed to wear sword in public. So maybe you remember movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. It is of course not true exactly, story of this period, but you can have some image about it.
Okay.
Japan was changing, it was strong westernization, and for Japan to survive a new period, it was necessary to stop this samurai tradition and public wearing
and
of
the
swords.
firearms came.
Yes.
So Master Jakub, let me know which one is your favorite from this.
Difficult to say. I love all of my weapons, but I love this Tetsunyoi. It's a very simple weapon, but extremely powerful, and it's with very interesting design, and it's possible, for example, to use it when I am doing something like tea ceremony, so I like it.
And since I'm thrower, I really like this for the tatami mats, right?
So.
Because these were penetrating so crazy, and you could have maybe several of them in the pocket, right? And you could throw it. But guys, let us know in the comment section below which your weapon was your favorite from this lot of cool stuff. And let us know if you want to see more episodes like this one, right? But I think for today, guys, that's it. So, thank you very much for watching. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and
Sarbaja.
see you next time.